You know, our oceans cover more than 70% of our planet, but we barely know what's in them. It's a huge mystery. So today, we're going to dive deep into this hidden world, from its absolute strangest wonders to the critical ecosystems and the very real dangers they're facing right now.
Okay, just to give you a sense of scale here, think about the blue whale, right? The biggest animal that has ever lived on Earth. Well, its tongue, just its tongue, can weigh as much as a full-grown elephant. An entire elephant. And believe me, that's just scratching the surface of how weird the ocean really gets.
So let's talk about some of these weird wonders. Because once you get beneath the waves, you find a world that is just stranger and more fascinating than you can possibly imagine. We're talking about things that honestly sound like they're straight out of science fiction. And we're just now starting to figure out some of the incredibly complex things happening down there. Get this, scientists have seen dolphins getting high. No, really. They gently chew on pufferfish, not to eat them, but to get a dose of their toxins, which sends them into this trance-like state. And they'll even pass the pufferfish around to their friends like they're sharing it.
And the adaptations, they are absolutely mind-blowing. Take this little guy, for example. It's a sea slug, often called the leaf sheep. And what it does is it eats algae and basically steals the part that does photosynthesis, the solar panels, so it can then make its own food from sunlight, just like a plant. It's literally a solar-powered animal. How cool is that?
And the way different species interact with each other, it can be, let's say, creatively ruthless. These are harlequin shrimp. They hunt in pairs, they'll find a starfish, flip it over, and since it's way too big to eat all at once, they just keep it alive. They treat it like living livestock, eating it one limb at a time to make sure their food supply lasts as long as possible. A little grim, but incredibly clever. So with all these incredible, bizarre discoveries, you'd think we've got a pretty good map of what's going on down there, right? Well, here's the kicker. The shocking reality is we've only explored about 5% of our own oceans. 5%. That means 95% is still a total mystery to us. But even inside that tiny 5% that we have explored, we have found ecosystems that are just breathtakingly important. I'm talking, of course, about the rainforests of the sea, our coral reefs. So, what exactly is a coral reef? A lot of people think they're rocks or maybe some kind of plant, but they're not. They're actually vast colonies made up of thousands and thousands of tiny little animals called coral polyps. And over thousands of years, their hard skeletons build up, one on top of the other, creating these massive, unbelievably complex structures. And when a reef is healthy, it's like a bustling underwater metropolis. It is an absolute explosion of color and life. It's where countless species find food, shelter, a place to raise their young. It's the heart of the ocean. Now, you'd think, given how famous they are, that coral reefs must cover a huge part of the ocean, right? The truth is pretty surprising. If you took all the coral reefs in the entire world and put them together, they would cover less than 1% of the ocean floor. Less than 1%. And this is maybe the single most important thing you need to know about them. So they take up less than 1% of the space, but they support an incredible 25% of all marine life. A quarter of every species in the ocean depends on this tiny, tiny habitat. Their importance is it's completely off the charts. And that incredible biological value, well, it translates directly into massive economic value. We're talking tourism, fishing, the protection they offer coastlines from storms, even discovering new medicines. You add it all up, and coral reefs generate something like $375 billion for the global economy every single year. But for more than 500 million people around the world, this isn't just some abstract number on a spreadsheet. It's their actual survival. It's their food, their jobs, their culture. The health of these reefs is directly, fundamentally tied to the well-being of coastal communities everywhere. But here's the problem. That vital connection is breaking. These unbelievable ecosystems, which are priceless both to nature and to us, are now facing a crisis on a scale we've never seen before. And it's not just one thing. That's the scary part. The threats are coming from all sides. Yeah, rising ocean temperatures from climate change is the big one, but it's made so much worse by everything else. Pollution, ocean acidification, which literally dissolves their skeletons, destructive fishing methods, runoff from land. It's like an assault from every direction at once. The most obvious sign that something is terribly wrong is something called coral bleaching.
Here's what happens. When the water gets too warm, the coral gets stressed out and it actually kicks out the tiny, colorful algae that live inside its tissues. Those algae are its main food source, so the coral turns bone white. It's not dead yet, but it's basically starving and incredibly vulnerable. It's a ghost of its former self. Okay, so that's a pretty bleak picture, I know, but the story doesn't have to end there. All around the world, scientists, governments, and especially local communities are fighting back. So the big question is, what can actually be done? Well, one of the most powerful tools we have in our arsenal is something called a Marine Protected Area, or MPA for short. The easiest way to think about an MPA is like a national park, but for the ocean. It's a specific, designated area where destructive activities are either limited or completely banned. The whole idea is to give that part of the ocean a break, a chance to breathe, to recover, and to get strong again. And the cool thing is, it's not just about saving the fish inside the protected area. The benefits actually ripple outward. Fishermen start seeing bigger catches right outside the MPA. Local communities can build sustainable tourism around it. Scientists have a living lab to study, and governments can protect a crucial natural resource. It's a win-win-win. But look, creating an MPA that actually works isn't as simple as drawing a line on a map. It has to be done right. It has to start with getting the local communities on board, that's number one. Then you need super clear goals, a solid legal foundation, and those all-important no-take zones where nothing can be removed. And finally, you have to constantly monitor the area to make sure your plan is actually making a difference. And this really brings us right back to where we started, back to that huge, mysterious, unknown ocean. Because when we talk about protecting places like coral reefs, it's not just about saving the incredible things we already know about. It's about protecting all the things we haven't even discovered yet. Just take a second and let this number sink in. Right now, science has officially named and described fewer than 250,000 species that live in the ocean. But the best estimates? They suggest there could be up to 2 million species out there. 2 million. That means for every one creature we know, there could be 7 or 8 more that we've never even seen. And that leaves us with a final, really urgent question. The same pressures that are devastating our known ecosystems are also impacting that vast, undiscovered world. We're in a race against time, not just to save the wonders we cherish, but to find the countless others that exist just beyond our view. Which begs the question, how many species will we lose before we even discover them?